Welcome to the Spunky Spirit Podcast. I'm your host, psychic medium Carrie Muggs. This is where we learn all things spirit, everything from spiritual gifts, awakenings, ghosts, aliens, and starseeds. Nothing is untouchable, but always fun and spunky. I am honored to be on this spiritual journey with you, so make sure you hit the subscribe button so you never miss an episode.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Spunky Spirit. I am psychic medium Carrie Muggs, and today we're going to talk about the spiritual laws or the universal laws. Now, the reason why we're going to talk about this is because I kind of didn't really know they existed before. I mean, I have lately, like the last few years when I've been working on my spiritual progress, but I feel like there's just things in the universe or universal laws that you can't get around that just happen. And I remember when I was part of a religion and people would ask certain questions and like, why would God let this happen? Or why would this happen? And there's just some universal laws that you can't get around, that they're just a universal thing. And so we're kind of going to go over those because you can apply these once you kind of know about them, you can apply them in your life and they can help raise your frequency or raise your vibe or help with things. So the first one, and I have my notes, so just know I'm going to be reading them. And so if you're watching this, you can see me look down, but if you're listening, you won't even know. So today, the law of divine, okay, the first one is the law of divine oneness. Now, this is kind of cool because you can feel this law. I call it the collective. It's all of us are combined somehow, or all of us are connected somehow. And you can feel this in meditation sometimes. You can feel it when that overwhelming feeling of everyone's one, or we're all connected. And I kind of liken it as like a Christmas tree. So the Christmas tree is like the earth or the universe, and the star is source. The star of the tree is source. And throughout the tree is all the lights. And we're all connected to each other on somehow or some way. And it used to be in the olden days when you had these lights that if one went out, we all went out. But now we can make it so we can all still work. But some of us have a brighter shine than others, and some of us have a lower shine. And that's just because it's where our frequency's at. And some of us, and that could be where our emotions are at, or where our frequency's at, or not. It's not that anybody is more important, or no one is, what do I want to say? No one is more important and no one is less important. Like no one is more superior and no one is more inferior. We're all the same, but we just do different things. So we're not we're not more superior or inferior as people, but I can be inferior as a surgeon because that's not what I do, but I'm not inferior as a person. So we're all created equal. We're all one and we're all connected. And a lot of these laws are connected together because as we get down lower into other laws, it's like some of the things we do connect other people, like the butterfly effect. So it's kind of interesting. Now, everything and everyone is connected in every thought. It's so crazy. So if you think about it, in a couple of books that I've read, some people think that thoughts are in the air or thoughts come to you. And if you don't act on that thought, then somebody else might. And so it's kind of interesting that we all we can have the same thoughts. And maybe that's why, psychics can read other people, is because if we're somehow connected, we can do that too. We can hear other people's thoughts, but I don't know all the answers. I just know I have felt the oneness and the connection mostly when I'm out in the wilderness and mostly when I meditate, and lots of times during Christmas, just because I think part of it is sometimes the energy is a little higher because the frequency is supposed to be, the collective frequency is raised because generally mostly people are happy, but the holidays always don't bring happiness to a lot of people too. So it's kind of up and down. And so that's why, we need to be more careful all the time, not just the holidays, of how our actions can affect people. And that's most of all these laws. Talk about that. So it's kind of interesting. So how to apply the divine oneness law is be more loving. and more compassionate and more understanding. And I do know a lot of times when I talk to spirits, I do readings and they say that they go over to the other side and they kind of look at their life review, they see how some of their actions affected other people and they kind of try and make up for it. It's kind of like the Christmas Carol, where they see that they did like Ebenezer Scrooge sees how when he goes to the ghost of Christmas, all of the different past, he sees how he treated people and he kind of feels bad about it. And spirits will kind of, I don't know if they feel bad because their emotions aren't as strong as they are on earth, but they will have some remorse and they will try and make things better, or sometimes they'll try and right their wrongs. So I thought that was kind of interesting. The next law is the law of vibration. That's all about frequency. Everything is a constant motion. Everything is on a frequency. So we're all in a certain vibration. And so this can be as a collective or on our own personal journey. We can have our own frequency. And sometimes this fluctuates. Sometimes we can be like at a really high frequency and then we can get sick and lower our frequency. I don't feel like a frequency is as much as you know, or as much as you like. It's not logic or what you learn. Your frequency is how you feel mentally, emotionally, and physically. And when you're at a higher frequency, you perform better and you do things better and you reach your goals better and you put things into action. So I think, the law of vibration is everything is in constant motion. And this is why if you're not, okay, so if you're trying to do something that's high frequency, like a goal that you have or something that you want to do, and you're kind of not in it, like you have an illness and you just don't feel good, then you're not going to be in that vibration, right? You're not going to be in that frequency or that vibration to do that. And that's okay. So, but how to apply the law of vibration is to always try and raise your frequency. Now, I know this is hard when you're sick, and I know this is hard when you're depressed, but if you realize what's going on, you can try. Now, when you're sick, just rest and give yourself rest without feeling guilty, though. Like, don't sit and don't feel bad that you're in bed that day. Like, that's can lower your frequency. If you're sick and you're consumed with guilt, that's lowering your frequency. So get rid of the guilt. If you have a chronic illness or if you're depressed, always try and do something, which is really hard because when you're in that frequency, you don't want to do anything, right? You just want to sit in that frequency. Try really hard to do something to raise your frequency daily. Just dance, music, anything that can raise your frequency. I did a podcast last week about how to raise your frequency for the holidays. So just always be trying to raise your frequency, even on some days when you just feel like you can't. Always at least go to bed thinking one thing that you're grateful for. I have this little app that I always try and put in at the end of the day, at least one thing that happened that I was grateful for, even if it was a really, really bad day. And, it's really hard when I don't have a chronic illness, but when you are going through some illness at a time, it's really hard. So just give yourself some grace here too. Now, the third law is called the law of correspondence. And this is the law that patterns repeat. And this can be on a collective. We've all seen it through history. History, if we don't learn certain lessons, history repeats itself all the time. And also in our own lives. If we don't learn a certain lesson that we were supposed to, I just learned this in counseling too. I would run into these certain type of characters in my life. And I would not understand why I kept running into these same people. It was because I wasn't learning the lesson. And I wasn't learning what I was supposed to, or I wasn't taking away from it what I should have, or I wasn't building boundaries, or I wasn't creating what I was supposed to. And I learned just this last week in counseling that, oh my gosh, this is why I keep running. This is why I run into him, because I had this incident when I was little. And this is why it keeps continuing, because I haven't figured it out. And hopefully now that I figured it out, I can build boundaries toward it. And at least I know now when this certain character or this persona comes into my life, I know how to protect myself and I know why it's coming and I can handle it differently. So law of patterns, it happens in our own journey. It happens in history. It's a universal thing. And it's kind of interesting. So how to apply this law is just remember that it's whatever's going on inside of us is going to be what's brought to us on the outside. So if you're chaotic or you're not learning, it's whatever your spirit needs is going to be brought back to you again. So if you haven't learned the lesson, so how to apply this law is that if you keep if you keep repeating the same things and over and over again, then you know that there's time for a change. You got to figure out why. And so, but it's good if you realize that the pattern is continuing to happen, because then you can figure it out, or you can go to counseling, or you can start a journal, or you can do whatever you can to like figure out why it's happening and how to change it. The next one is the law of attraction. Now, we've all heard this a lot of times. It's called, I don't know, The Secret, all of that stuff. We create, we are born to create. That's what we're born to create. We're born creators to co-create with the divine. So we're always like manifesting. We want to manifest. So what we want to manifest will happen. And this can be good or bad. So if we dwell on something or we think about something all the time, we can create that to happen, because that's what we're putting out there. So it can be good or bad. So you always want to like make sure that whatever you want to manifest, that you are and whatever you want to create, that you're in alignment with it, or you're in a good standing with it. And you want to make sure when you have bad thoughts about things happening or intrusive thoughts, that you try and rewind that and try not to think about it very much. This is very similar. I think it kind of is the law of manifestation. It's the law of attraction. So you attract whatever frequency you're in, you're going to attract that. It's kind of like when people say, you need to take time and love yourself, because when you become who you want to become, then you will attract who you want, or then that will bring somebody to your life that you need. And so it's whatever you attract what you are. So whatever frequency you are, or whatever you dwell on. So if you're constantly negative and you're constantly thinking, oh, this is going to happen to me, or why is this happening to me, you're going to continually attract that. But if you're always thinking, try and change your thought process, then you'll attract that. But the trick is to be in that frequency. You have to believe it. You have to believe it. And that's in some of these other ones, we're going to talk about that too. Now, the way to apply this one is just remember, you get what you put out there. You get whatever, and this is kind of a karmic one too, but it's not, this isn't a consequence one. This is, well, kind of, because if you put bad energy out there, you're going to get bad energy back, right? So this is that you have to manifest whatever you want to create. You have to believe you can. You have to, and you have to have that motion behind it. So this depends on what, if you are better at visualizing, then visualize it. If you're better at audio, then imagine listening to it. If you're better at just feeling it, then feel that emotion of when that happens, when that goal is created. Believe. And also too, if you do an affirmation, so like if every day you're like, I weigh 160 pounds, and you really don't, you're not going to believe that. And your body's going to kind of know that. And so you have to say, I'm in the process. So you have to say, I'm in the process of weighing 165 pounds. I'm in the process of getting out of debt. And then your body will believe it. And so then it will happen. It will come easier to you. Okay, this one I love too. This is number 5, the law of inspired action. Now, a lot of people believe the secret is that you just put it out there and you order it to the universe, and the universe will deliver. And that's not entirely true. You have to have action behind it. You have to, and I always use this example where I say, if you lost your keys and you ask spirit or a loved one on the other side to help you find your keys, and then you sat on the couch and just waited for it to happen, it wouldn't happen. But if you asked for spirit to help you find your keys and you actively started looking for them, then spirit could help you. Spirit could give you like different thoughts of where to look for your keys, or spirit could like whisper, or spirit could actually can move the keys to where you can find them, or have somebody else find them and bring them to you. But you have to actively do it. You can't just sit on the couch and wait it to plop in your lap. You have to actually do it. So the best to do this is listen to your intuition, and just know that we let go of the control. This is the one thing too. We always do this thing where we plan, and planning is great. And we plan and we go backwards and we say, okay, I want to get to this point, and this is how I'm going to get there. And that is great. But what you need to let go of is, and that's actively working. But what you need to let go of is sometimes you can't control the plans, because what happens is if the plans don't work out, you freak out or you think everything is lost because you want that control. We want that control. But in reality, sometimes spirit knows that you've done the work and you've made a plan, and they'll bring it through a different way. It's kind of like the little girl with the bicycle. She tells her dad she wants a bike and she plans on saving all of her money. And she's walking to the with her piggy bank. She's walking to the bike store with her piggy bank, and the wind blows and all of her money blows away. And she's devastated because she's worked so hard, and the wind she didn't wrap her money up very well, and the wind blew it away. But the dad realized all of that hard work and all of that energy that she took into it. He bought the bike for her. And sometimes that's how the divine works or spirit works. They see how much work we put into it. And I have to tell you, I remember thinking one time when I was working. I was busting my butt to do something. And finally I lost it. I felt out of control. I felt chaotic. I felt pushed. It felt forced. And so finally I was like, I'm going to take a break. And so I took a break. I rested. I think actually, spirit, I got sick and I was down for 2 weeks. And those 2 weeks that I was down, it, all of the stuff that I thought just was falling apart actually ended up working out. And the plan, I reached my goal. And it was a huge lesson to me to let go sometimes and surrender to spirit and let them control. So planning is great and action is great, but don't be so headstrong that it has to go that way all the time. You can look for the keys and look for the keys, but don't feel like don't say, okay, I'm going to look for the keys behind the dresser and then I'm going to look for them in the laundry and I'm going to find them in the kitchen. It's because it's not always going to work that way. The plan is great, but it doesn't always work the way we planned, right? Okay, now this one's kind of a hard one. This is number 6, the law of perpetual transmutation of energy. So that's kind of a long, but it's about taking the energy and transmuting it to good, or taking energy and transmitting it to work for us. So a lot of people do this when they work with paranormal or work with lower frequencies. They take that lower energy and they transmute it to positive energy or good energy. Everything in the universe is constantly evolving or always raising its frequency. We are created to be successful. We've got this thing in us that we want to improve. We always want to create and we always want to improve. And this law kind of helps that transmutal energy. Every action starts with a thought, and our thoughts have power. So we change those thoughts into action, and action into progress. And then, so it's always transmuting that energy. Another way to look at this is how our own energy can affect others. So, if you walk into a room and you're super depressed, some people are going to pick up on that energy and it's going to make other people depressed. Do you really want that? Like, really, do you really want that? I know a couple of people that like the energy of the attention of victimhood, and it's just not a good energy. You want to walk in the room and have everybody be so excited that you're there, and just change people's frequency to higher them. You don't want to leave somebody and have them feel drained. And so also too, remember that if you're around somebody who's emotionally draining, block your energy, protect your energy, transmute that energy to do good. Okay. Uplift others. And that goes back to a lot of the other laws too. Number 7, the law of cause and effect. So this one is your actions have consequences. So the actions that you have, every action has a consequence. And what we put out there will always come back to us. It will always come back to us. I tell in my readings all the time, you make your own choices. So if Uncle Joe, who used to be a gambler, comes through and says, hey, it would be fun for you to go to Las Vegas, and you decide to go to Las Vegas, that is not on Joe. That is not on me. That is on you. If you have your own choices, your actions have consequences. So you have to do what feels right for you, not what feels right for everybody else, but for you, because what your actions do will have consequences, good or bad. The way that you can just remember that everything you put out there will come back to you. It will come back to you regardless. It might not come back to you tomorrow, but it will come back to you at a later date. It's kind of that karma thing. It's just whatever you put out there comes back to you. And just remember that the way to apply this is ask yourself, is this gonna be good? Is this what I'm putting out there going to be a good thing or a bad thing? I mean, and it can be neutral. We're going to talk about that later too. But is this going to uplift? Is this going to help? Is this going to, and if you're like, you don't want to help, but you can ask the other thing, is this going to hurt people? You know what I mean? But whatever, the law of cause and effect. That number 8 is the law of compensation. You reap what you sow. And this is kind of the same thing as you get what you put out there, but you have to put the work in. And that's the same as the action one. So this one's kind of tricky because it's kind of embedded in the others. So it's kind of a law that whatever I'm having a hard time with this one, as you can tell, because it's kind of similar to all the other ones. Actually, they're all kind of similar, really. They're all kind of karma. But the law of compensation, if you put in the work and you put in the thoughts, you're going to receive it. It's kind of like the little girl who lost the money, the bike again. Even though it didn't go the way she planned, if she put in the work and she puts in the action and surrenders to spirit, or her, in this case, her father, it will come. The creation that you are willing to make or that you wanted to make will come. And usually it gets a little bit harder before it actually comes. So the little girl who was devastated that her money was flying all over in the wind and her money blew away was probably devastated and thought it was the end of the world and didn't realize later that her dad would buy the bike for her. So just know that, just because sometimes we feel like we put all this work into it, and we're doing all the right things and we're supposed to be doing this and we try so hard and we don't see any results and it gets us down, or it makes us tired and we want to give up. Just know that the law of compensation says if you put the work in, you're going to get the reward. It's just the timeline. Sometimes we're a little bit more impatient than we should be. And also too, just know that no action of faith is unrewarded. It's so any action that you do in faith will be rewarded. Maybe not the way you planned, but the way that it's supposed to. You will be rewarded. Number 9, the law of relativity. So this one's a good one because we all compare things in this world. And this is the one where we don't know, right? So we compare things and we compare our lives to other people. But in a day of social media, we're comparing things to things that aren't real because so many people put fake lives out there. So many people put their lives that it's so perfect and it's so wonderful, and it's so great. And we compare ourselves to that. We don't compare ourselves to the real thing. It's all relative, right? It's all relative. It's about your perception. So we perceive them to be perfect in this wonderful, great life. And in reality, their life could be chaotic. It could be a mess. And we're comparing our lives. We're thinking we're mundane, or we're thinking we're not good enough, or we're thinking we don't have what it takes. And in reality, they just maybe got the law of compensation, but their life is chaotic. They put the work in, they did all the work and they did the hard things and they got where they wanted to be, but their life is crazy chaotic, or they're not happy, or they're in debt, or things that we don't see. And so it's all relative. It's all neutral. There's no one more superior and no one inferior. They just are superior at an action but as a person, they're not superior than you. And so the law of relativity, the way to apply this is do not compare. Do not compare your lives to others, because it takes your joy and you're comparing something that you have no clue what it really looks like. You have no clue what their life really looks like. So do not compare. Do not compare your children. Do not compare in-laws. Do not compare parents. Just don't compare, because what we're comparing to is our weaknesses to their strengths and our strengths to their weaknesses. And comparing always makes us either feel inferior or superior. And that's not a thing. Okay. So number 10, the law of polarity. Everything has a opposite. So this is bad has good, evil has well, not evil. Warm has cold, love and has fear. It's like the pendulum. It's like it always. And so we have to, and some people say we have to experience the bad to know the good. And maybe that's entirely true. But also, too, sometimes what we think is bad really isn't, because that's our perception, right? So, the law of polarity, that's just, there is opposites. There's God for everything there is an opposite. So to know warmth, we've got to know cold. To know dark, we've got to know light. So when we have bad times in our life, it's so we can appreciate the good. And so sometimes you just need to remember that. Number 11 is the law of rhythm. And I love this too. This one is this, there's always a rhythm in your life. So there's always cycles. There's always moon cycles. There's always the earth is in cycles. There's always seasons, comes in cycles. And the way we age comes in cycles. We're born, we're teenagers, middle age, old, and then that's always a cycle. And in this life, we are never, ever in a moment, we're never the same. I'm not the same person I was a minute ago when I started this podcast. We're never the same. We're always different. And sometimes we want to reach back to who we were in a different time, and we can't, because we're never going to be that person again. It's like the river. The water never goes over the same place the same again. And so you just have to remember that if you're really trying hard to be somebody who you were in your past, you're never going to make that, because you're always changing. And hopefully, because of some of these spiritual laws, we're changing for the better. We're changing at a better pace, or a higher frequency. And even though bad things could happen to us, we can still learn from them and raise our frequency and know, and and our reaction to them can be different, or we can, how we react to them can be chosen differently. So the law of rhythm, we expect to always be the same throughout our whole life, and we're never going to be the same. We're always changing, always. Just like the world, the universe changes, the world changes, seasons change. It's just the law. It's just the law of rhythm. Um, did I go over all of these? Yeah, I have. Okay. Okay. So we're actually number 12. That's why I was like, wow, this kind of seems like it was fast. Okay, so this is the law of gender. Now, a lot of people think that this is people are going to be like, oh, this is like, no, it's not about anything that's going on. It's not about labels like that. It's that the universe, everything has a masculine or a feminine energy. This is why languages use like French and Spanish. They have like every noun will have a masculine or feminine beginning to it. I know French does. I don't know if the other one does for sure, but because everything has a masculine or a feminine energy. And it doesn't mean it's like boy or girl. It just means it's an energy. And masculine is a stronger energy. Masculine is a hustle energy. Masculine is a power energy. And relatively, the earth has been running on a masculine power for a really long time. And it's not a they're both, the thing is masculine and feminine is, one's not better than the other. They complete each other, they help each other, they empower each other. It's like yin and yang, they help balance each other out. So it's not that we want to be more masculine or more feminine, it's that we want to have balance of both so we can understand both, right? um the feminine energy is to be more nurturing and to just be who you are. And I think we're kind of going into that, but the goal is to balance. The goal is to have balance. And so that's what the rule of gender is. So that's those are the universal laws. And I think the reason why I want to talk about these today, I'm just like reviewing, making sure I looked at all of them. The reason why I want to talk to you about them today is because one, they're spiritual laws, they're universal laws, they're laws that you can't stop. They happen whether you like it or not. And karma is not a punishable law. It's a universal law. It's karma fits into one of those. I can't remember which law it was, but you get what you put out there. That's karma. That's the one. And so just be aware of your actions and be aware of what you do, and just know that what you put out into the universe, you will get back tenfold. And so try and always make it good. Now, I know that that sounds exhausting, but honestly, once you kind of start realizing that and seeing that, it makes it actually a little bit easier, because you kind of realize this is not what I want. And I have always, like, I look at it all the time, even as a mom. Like, some things will happen to me as a mom, and I'll be like, oh, that's my karma, because I maybe did that to my mom. And so it's not a bad thing. It's not a bad or good thing. It's just a universal law. There's no revenge. It's just a universal law. And so I think that these spiritual laws, these universal laws, help us grow spiritually. And I think that once we're aware of them and know how they work, it helps us to raise our frequency. It helps us to raise our vibration. It helps us to be more compassionate and love and know that we are all one. So the reason why I wanted to talk about these universal laws today is because it does help with your frequency. It does raise your connection to the divine, and it does help you connect to your guides and to your ancestors, because they're part of us. They're part of us, and they abide by these rules too. Not just people on earth, they're universal, they're spiritual. So all of these laws affect not only you, but everyone, and even spirituals and spirits. And so it just helps you kind of, I think it gives more clarity. I think it gives us more clarity, and it helps, and it makes us want to put better things out into the world, out into the universe. And so just try and apply these. Don't be overwhelmed. Just try and apply these one at a time. It's kind of a little bit easier because they all kind of work together. So, but I just wanted to talk about them because they do help raise your frequency, and they do help with your spiritual growth. Because the one, I say it all the time, the way you raise your frequency is to deal with what's inside. It's not an outside thing, it's inside. And that the law that says what's going on inside is what's going on outside of you. I can't remember which one that was. Let me go find it. The mirror one, the mirror effect, uplifting, yeah, manifesting. I can't find it, but one of them was what's going on, the vibration in your frequency. Yeah, well, I'm sure you guys don't want to sit here and listen to me try and find the mirror one. Oh, let go of control, that one. Okay, well, anyways, you get what you put out there. And what I mostly want you to know too is no one is more superior than you, and no one is more inferior than you. And the rest of the laws will kind of fall into place, really. So I love you guys so much. And I don't know if I'm going to have a podcast next week. It depends on how this week goes. So, because the reason why is because I'm going to have surgery and get the tumor out, get that tumor that's in my sinuses. I'm going to get it out. If you've been following me, I'm going to get that tumor taken out Friday. If I can do a podcast this week and schedule it for next week, that will be great. If I can't, then I guess we'll see next week how it goes. But I'm going to get that tumor out this Friday, and hopefully that's going to raise my frequency a little bit, right? Yeah. So that's been kind of the whole sickness thing that's been going on with me, but I've actually felt a lot better this last 2 weeks. So I appreciate everybody sending all their love. I love you guys so much. I couldn't do this without you. And I know prayers work. I know that you get what you put out there. So I know those prayers that you send me, or those good thoughts, or those good intentions, I know that's why intentions are so important, right? Because they follow the universal laws. I know they work, and I appreciate them so much. I remember one time through my divorce, it was like I could hardly get out of bed, but I know the energy I felt that morning was from people who sent me good energy to make it through the day. And I just am so grateful for it. So grateful for it. And just remember too, the energy that you do send me, you will receive back, because I'm sending it back to you. So I love you guys so much. And I will talk to you next week, hopefully, or the week after.